Creating and processing forms is a very common task in web development. It's no surprise that some of the most popular plugins in the WordPress ecosystem deal with form creation. While they do make your life easier, there is some merit for writing your own forms. First, it's free. Second, you can add advanced processing. And third, you can customize the forms however you need. In this video, we are going to create a newsletter subscription form that saves email addresses into the database. The form will have a CAPTCHA for preventing spam and also security protection against cross-site request forgery. If you like this content and you want to support the channel, please subscribe to it. It helps a lot. This is the website that we are going to use. It's localhost WordPress. And we are going to add the subscribe form here at the bottom of the main page using a shortcode. The first thing we do is log in into the admin panel, and we are going to use this code snippets plugin. You see it over here, it's named code snippets. You can install it, it's free. This plugin allows us to add PHP without creating child themes. It's very useful. So here they have some examples already. They have this example HTML shortcode that we are going to clone and modify. It was cloned here at the bottom, and we rename it. Let's call it subscribe form. So our shortcode would be called subscribe form with underscore. And here the HTML that we are going to return initially, it's a form action. Let's call it hashtag, so it will post to the same page that the shortcode is added. Method post, and let's close the form. And here we are going to put all our inputs into one div. Let's call this div sub form. Sub comes from subscribe, and we will have here two inputs: input of type email, name email, ID email, and an input of type submit. We will give it a name as well. Let's call it subscribe submit. And value subscribe. This is the label that will be on the subscribe button. And we are also going to add a label for email, and the label will be email. So this add shortcode code method needs to return the HTML as a string. But if we do this, this will just print the HTML to the web page, and we need to capture it as a string. So for this, we are going to use the ob_start method. And we are going to return ob_getClean. What this method does is that instead of printing the HTML and echo calls to the web page, it will save it into a string buffer, and when we call ob_getClean, it will return the string buffer and clear it. So we save and activate. First let's copy the name of our shortcode, save changes and activate. And if we go and edit this page, the front page, scroll to the bottom, and here we add a shortcode and paste the name of our shortcode in brackets. We update. Let's view the page, and we see our form is here, but it's not rendered very nicely. The style is not very good. Okay, let's improve this. So we go to customize, open it in a new tab, and we go here at the bottom to additional CSS. Okay, so we added all our inputs in this div called subform, and the first thing we are going to do is put all the inputs on their own line. So we're going to use display block. It already looks good. We see that the email field has this slight margin, is probably a few pixels there, that we want to remove it. So subform, let's say input of type email, margin left 0 pixels. Okay, very good. And we also want to add a margin at the bottom. Margin bottom, let's use 1 rem, which is like 16 pixels. Of course, this will increase if the user zooms in. And also the label, we want to increase the size of the label to, let's say, this size. This is probably an H3 or H4. So let's do inspect. Okay, it's an H3. And if we look at font size in here, we see that there's a global variable for size H3. So let's just copy this one. And let's call it subform label. Label and font size in here. Okay, and we don't want it to be bold, so let's do font weight normal. Okay, so this already looks a bit better, looks decent. Let's refresh this page. Okay, good. Then let's also add a heading here, the same size as this one, sample services. So this is an H2, I think. Yeah, it's an H2. Okay, so edit this page. And the heading here will be subscribe to our newsletter. Okay. Update view page. Okay, good. We also need to add a Captcha field in here. Otherwise, we will get a lot of spam entries into our database. So we're going to search for Google Recaptcha JavaScript. And we see an example here of adding the Recaptcha. So first we need to import this JavaScript into our web page header and then add this div to our form. So we go to the snippets plugin and we need to see how we add a JavaScript. They have this example here, example JavaScript snippet, and we're just going to copy this one to the snippet that adds the shortcode. So in here we add an action, we add a hook to the WordPress head, and we need to copy this one from here. Okay, good. We save the changes, but we also need to add this div right here. So we are going to add it before submit. Oh, and we need to transfer our Recaptcha site key. Let's see, render Recaptcha widget. Okay. So we go to Google Recaptcha admin console. Okay. No, not create. We go here to admin console and we go to settings. So my Recaptcha type is V2 checkbox. We go to settings and open this Dropbox keys and copy the site key, not the secret key. I'm gonna skip ahead in the video because I don't want to expose my keys. Okay, so I have the site key in my clipboard. I paste it here. This is exposing your site key is not a problem, but the secret key is, and the Dropbox would expose it. Okay, so we save it now. And if we go to the web page and reload it, we see it down here. We also want to add a bit of space between the Captcha and the subscribe button. So we go back here and we do For inside the subform input of type submit, we add margin top. Let's also do one rem about 16 pixels by default. And we reload this page and we see there's a bit more space now. Next, we are going to start processing form information on the back end. So we go to our snippet and we will check if there's form information submitted to the page on the post method, because our form has method action post. So we will check if it's set post of we are going to check this variable submit. This is why we gave a name to the submit button, because it allows us to process only our form. So if there will be other forms on the page, we want to process our form, not other data. So we check if it's set of submit. And if this is the case, let's just return one div. Let's say div and a message of thank you for subscribing, thank you for subscribing, and in bold it will be the, let's say, post of email. So the email that we submitted will be this welcome message. We close the bold and the div, and let's give a class to our div class. Let's call it sub success. Okay, let's try it out. So we save this one. So just enter an email here, a@b.com, subscribe, and it says thank you for subscribing, a@b.com, which is good. This is what we wanted. Now let's improve a bit upon this box. Well, we're gonna add a background color to this div of let's say light green. So we go to customize, additional CSS, and so our div has the class called sub success, and we are going to set a background color, and I already selected this pastel green that I think goes well with the theme, and we are going to add some padding, also one rem 16 pixels, and let's also add the class for failure. We're going to use it next, so copy this one, but we're going to change the color to a pastel red that I chose before. Okay, let's put this one in here, publish. So now if we reload the page, yeah, we're going to resubmit the data. We see that it's in the box. It looks pretty good. And let's try out the failure box as well. Sub failure in here. Save changes. Resubmit the form, and yeah, we see it looks good. But we're going to switch it back to sub success. Next, we are going to add protection against cross-site request forgery attacks, also known as CSRF or CSRF. And the way we are going to prevent against these attacks is with nonces. So if we search for WordPress nonces, NONCES, the first URL here is in the WordPress codex, and it explains an example of what happens if you don't use CSRF protection. So basically, we visit this malicious website that has an image in the HTML. The image actually doesn't render, but instead calls this submits this form information into our WordPress website that deletes one of the posts. and the browser will allow this because it passes on your authentication cookies to WordPress, and then the backend will just think that the request came from you. Obviously, this is a pretty bad vulnerability, and in order to prevent this, we are going to use nonces. And the way it works, we add this nonce field into our form, and then on the backend, when we process the form information, we need to verify this nonce using WordPress verify nonce. Okay, let's transfer the input to our form. It will be an invisible input, so it doesn't matter where we place it. We need to give it a name for our action. Let's call it sub-action, and a name for the nonce itself, and let's call it sub-nonce. And if we save this snippet and go back to our page, let's reload it. And if we inspect the source code, we will see that there's this hidden input for our nonce with the random string value here, and this value will be refreshed every time we reload the page. Now we need to verify that the nonce we receive from the form is valid once we have form data, and we do this using this method with WordPress verify nonce. So just transfer this to our snippet. Let's fix this indentation. Okay, so the name of our nonce is sub-nonce. Again, sub-nonce, and name of the action is sub-action. And if this happens, we need to return error message instead of success. Okay. Return. So this will be sub-failure. We want to see the red box. And the message here will be security error. Security error. We don't need to provide too much information anyway. They know why they got this. Okay, let's try it out. And actually, let's make it fail. So into our nonce, let's append some random string. So this will definitely make it fail. Let's save it. And if we go back here, let's try it, a@b.com. And we should see security error, which is good. And if we remove that, if we remove this random string from our nonce, now it should work. We save it, and now we try to resubmit an email. Subscribe, and yeah, we got the success message, which means that the nonce verification passed. You probably noticed that the Captcha verification we added earlier doesn't work at the moment. So if we go to this form, even if we don't check this "I'm not a robot" box, the form still goes through. And this is because we need to verify the Captcha in the backend after we receive the form data. And if we look at the documentation, they have this in developers Google Recaptcha. We see that we need to make this API request to this URL, and we need to pass our Recaptcha app secret key and the response we receive from the form. And then this REST API will verify that the user is not a robot. So in order to make a post request in WordPress, we need to use this function called WordPress remote post. And if we go to their documentation in here, and we'll see an example right here how to make a post request. And it says in the example, response.body will contain the actual page returned by the server. So let's transfer this to our snippet. So in here, we don't need any of this. We only need the body field. We don't need any cookies. And this is the URL that we need to make the request to, site verify. So we'll go here. And this needs to be in quotes. And the fields in form data need to be secret and response. So here, secret, response. Secret is the secret key from the Recaptcha app. I don't want to expose it to YouTube, so I put it in I put it in a constant. For me, it's called Recaptcha secret. For you will just paste that string in that secret key in here. It will be a random string like this. And response is actually the field from the form. So it will be this field from here, g-recaptcha-response, and it will be in our post data. Okay, this looks good. And now we receive the response as a JSON message. This is how the response from the API would look like. We need to decode this as an array, and we only care about this success field. So for decoding text to an array, we use the PHP function called JSON decode. JSON decode. So we pass the string, the response that we received, and then associative if we want an array return. Otherwise, it will be an object. So here's an example. We get this string and it gets decoded as this object or as an array. We will decode it as an array. So let's do JSON decode. Let's call this variable response.js and JSON decode true. And this will be what we want to decode as response of body, because this is where the response from the API is in. So now we need to verify that if success is false, then we need to return the security error message like we did for the nonsense. So here, response JS of success. Then we return this message. Okay. Let's save it. Okay, so let's just for testing purposes, let's add some random string at the end of the Recaptcha response that we got from the form to make sure that it does actually fail. So if we go here and let's click this field And yeah, we see security error. And now if we remove this thing and save it, let's go here again. And we see that it worked. Okay. The last thing that we need to do for our form is to actually save the email we received in the form into the database. For doing this, we are going to open phpMyAdmin to create the table first. So in here in the WordPress database, we're going to create a new table called WP subs. It needs to have this WP prefix like all the other tables. And in here, there's going to be a field called email of up to 200 characters. And we hit save. This will create the table. And now for interacting with the database, we use the WPDB object in WordPress. And if we open it, we see there are some examples here on the right, and we need this one, insert row. And the way we use it is table name, then data, and it will return, this method returns false if the row could not be inserted, otherwise number of rows affected, usually 1. And one thing to keep in mind, this function, by using this method, we are protected against SQL injection attacks. This is something we need to be mindful all the time. We have a form where users can enter information and then that ends up interacting with the database. So if we don't escape these fields correctly, we might end up exposing all our data to attackers, or they can start deleting tables or deleting our entire database. But this method is safe. So we are going to go to our snippet, use this global variable WPDB, and after we passed all these the Captcha and CSRF checks, we are going to call this insert function. Insert. So the table name will be WPDB prefix, which is a constant, is that WP underscore prefix that all the tables have. And then subs, which is our table. So WP subs, this will end up being WP subs. And now we just provide the data as an array. And there's only one field we add, which is email. And in our case is post of email. And here, let's say insert result. We are going to check if this operation succeeded or failed. And if it if it failed, we want to return database error. We don't need to provide too much internal information to end users. Let's make sure we have the same one. Okay, good. And just for testing, let's add a prefix here for a table that doesn't exist, just to make the operation fail, to make the insert fail for testing. So here, if we go here, we check I'm not a robot, subscribe, and yeah, we get the database error. And now if we remove this suffix, our table name should be valid. And if we refresh this page and try again, click I'm not a robot, subscribe. Thank you for subscribing, a@b.com. And if we go to phpMyAdmin, we should see, yeah, we see the email that was added right here. That's it for today. I will link the source code in the video description. You can also find my website there in case you need help with WordPress development. See you next time.